Now, it is rare that we overlap, but we are going to overlap in this particular case because my garbage person has to be Donald Trump for what he said, not about Epstein. He'd prefer not to talk about that. No, it's what he said about the Gaza Strip. Take a look.
The Strip, the Gaza Strip. I call it the Gaza Strip, one of the worst real estate deals ever made. They gave up the oceanfront property, one of the worst deals ever made. But it was supposed to bring peace, and it didn't bring peace. It brought the opposite. But we're doing pretty well on Gaza.
Look, I want to immediately jump in and talk about how strange it is to describe the establishment of the status quo of territory as a real estate deal, and then basically like whine about the fact that I guess you think it was wasted on people you don't consider fully human. But that said, I have to give him credit. I like the Gaza Strip thing. I think that's pretty clever. I could see that catching on. I've never heard it put in that way, but he calls it the Gaza Strip. So I don't hope it's not like plagiarism, but I think I'm gonna start calling it that too, actually. Thank you, Donald Trump, for giving us that. Anyway, this is not the first time that he has talked about the only place where Palestinians were at least briefly allowed to live without being mass murdered as a real estate thing. In February, he implied that the US would take over the Gaza Strip. Nobody called it that at that point. He hadn't yet coined the term, but the same basic idea. And then he would turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East. The US will take over the Gaza Strip and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it, he said, and somehow that's not a story anybody talks about or cares about, that we're just going to own the Gaza Strip. Okay, that's what we've moved on from. But at this point in the garbage people, I do have to admit that I sort of used Donald Trump being a monster as the inroads to talk about something even bigger, because Trump saying, hey, maybe we should do this is bad, but also it's bad because it normalized the idea that maybe somebody does that. And right now, somebody is planning to do it, and that somebody is Israel, because their defense minister has now described in detail a plan to take all of the Palestinians that are still alive and push them all into the ruins of what once was the city of Rafah. They're calling it a humanitarian city because the spirit of George Orwell is still alive and well. And Palestinians would have to go through security screening before being allowed to enter this massive concentration camp. Once they're in there, they would not be allowed to leave. It would be like Israeli forces would control the perimeter and would patrol it because it would be the world's largest open air prison in the world. And that would involve 600,000 Palestinians initially, and eventually the entire population of Gaza would be squeezed into this tiny ruin, basically. There's basically no buildings even standing there. That is more than 2 million people, at least as of right now. It's entirely possible the IDF will have whittled that number down to a more manageable population by the point that they move them there. But as of right now, they would take Gaza, which is already one of the most densely populated places on earth, and they would steal 95% of the territory and then squish everybody into one big jail cell effectively. And this is not, like, there's sometimes disagreement amongst senior ministers in the Israeli government. Netanyahu's on board. He's saying if people want to stay, they can stay, but if they want to leave, they should be allowed to leave. And to be clear, he doesn't mean into the rest of Gaza. That will have already been stolen to be given to Israelis or international real estate developers. No, they can be sent somewhere else around the world, because that's how ethnic cleansing works. You kill a bunch of them, you ship away the rest of them. And this is not some conspiracy theory. These is the senior members of the Israeli government are talking this up as a business opportunity, describing massive crimes against humanity in terms of the profit that it can generate and the amazing waterfront property that can finally, like in the terms of Trump, be given to more deserving people. Brett, what do you think? That's my garbage people. I sort of went beyond that, but that's my garbage people.
You've heard when people say, like, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. When all you have is a history of terrible real estate deals, everything you see looks like a terrible real estate deal. Like, yes, obviously the what he's gonna want to do with it, And something he's kind of endorsed in the past is developing Gaza into something that is no longer for the Gazans, for the Palestinians. Like that is a very clear objective and what's going on. And like, just talk about the scale of the two cities. Los Angeles has more than 2 million people. Obviously, like metro area has like 20 million people. But like, yeah, Rafah itself is already one of the most highly densely populated places. And
you can put up graphic 7 while you talk. You can see Rafah down in the very bottom little corner there.
And Rafah's 1/20th the size of Los Angeles.
Yeah. And also,
notably, of the people in it.
It has basically no standing buildings or infrastructure. Yeah, it's effectively a patch of desert that 2 million people are going to be put into.
It's been horrible. It's been so horrible, and the inability of Donald Trump and the Israeli government and Trump supporters who are not against this war, like the ability of them to be like, yo, you guys are being like double talk and you're the thought police and everything. We're gonna call this a humanitarian city. Meanwhile, like, just let people, like, you've won. You've won. Yeah. Stop.
Yeah. It's absolutely gross. Well, those are our garbage people of the week, but we also had a bunch of people vote for the garbage person of the week. That's 68,000 of you, and here are your top 4. 7% voted for Greg Gutfeld for saying he wants to reclaim Nazi as a term. 8% for Kristi Noem for doubling down on FEMA's failures and not taking any responsibility. 34% for the SCOTUS for allowing the dismantling of the education department. But 51% were not having the House GOP for blocking multiple attempts to release the Epstein files. By the way, the Senate has also done the same thing since that happened. So on both sides, the Republicans are as culpable as Donald Trump on this. But we also have to balance out, everything should be balanced. Hero of the week, so many of you would have voted for that, 44,000. Fewer, I noticed, but 9% voted for Stephen Colbert for embarrassing Charlie Kirk in what might become one of the final things he does on his show. 13% for Bernie Sanders for his continued push for a 4-day work week on the Joe Rogan program. 27% for Ro Khanna for unveiling a bill to release the Epstein files. But 51% went to the FIFA fans for booing Trump before the game. I never could have predicted that would be what you voted for. I learned so much out of these polls, but thank you to everybody who voted. If you enjoyed that, then make sure that you never miss another video by subscribing. And if you want a little more, consider hitting the join button and becoming a member. So you're probably wondering, why would I do that? Well, when you do that, you get access to bonus content that I make every single week, and it's a lot of fun. You get custom emojis and more. If you join at tier 3, by the way, you even get access to a monthly member hangout with myself. And you'll get all that going forward, but you'll also unlock years of the back catalog. That is literally 100 or more bonus clips and top 10 lists and debates and more. So what are you waiting for?